Sign it, Grandpa, or we're done here.
I've got a silent partner, my grandpa.
He tossed the loan paper across the table like trash. Sign it, Grandpa, or we're done here. My hands shook, not from age, but rage. It was my retirement dinner in Cleveland under the terminal tower lights. Everyone went quiet as he laughed. You're not even family if you won't help. He had no idea what I'd kept in my glove box that night. Before we continue, subscribe for more true stories of betrayal and revenge that'll leave you speechless. My name's Charles, 65 years old, born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. 42 years at the Ford assembly line out in Brook Park. I never asked for much, just peace. The kind you earn, not beg for. That night, I was supposed to feel proud. Retirement dinner, family all around. My daughter had the private room booked at that little Italian place near Public Square. White tablecloths, warm bread, Sinatra crooning through the speakers. The city lights blinked through the tall windows like they were nodding along to the music. I'd pictured this night for years, a quiet toast, maybe a few stories about busted knuckles and long shifts, a hug from my grandkids, a slice of cannoli at the end. But when Ryan, my grandson, stood up and tapped his glass with a fork, I knew something was off. His girlfriend sat there smirking like they'd rehearsed it. That smirk should have told me everything. Grandpa, he said, flashing that politician smile, I want to toast to everything you've built. And now it's time to help build my future. Then he slid the envelope across the table. Inside, a typed-up loan agreement. $180,000 to be signed. Today. The room held its breath. I looked at my daughter. She looked away. Her fork hovered in the air, then clinked softly against the plate as she set it down. His father, my son-in-law, kept chewing steak, eyes fixed on the table, jaw working slow, like he wanted to be invisible. You want me to co-sign this? I asked, voice quiet, even. Ryan didn't blink. I'm not asking you to pay it, just to vouch for it. It's a business loan? For my gym expansion? He chuckled, light, dismissive. You've got equity in that rental, don't you? We already checked the county clerk's site. That word, we, scraped against my chest. You've got the credit. I've got the hustle. It's simple. Then he said it. Or we're done here. It wasn't the money. It was the audacity. The way he weaponized family. He said it like I was an obstacle. A burden. Like everything I'd done to get him this far had expired with my usefulness. The fork in my hand pressed hard against the cloth napkin. I didn't speak, just nodded slowly, like an old man who'd finally gotten the message. But inside, something sharp started turning. Not rage alone. Something colder. Something that thinks. After the dinner, I got in my truck and sat under the flickering streetlight. The night smelled of wet pavement and lake wind. Dashboard lights glowed soft amber across my hands. The envelope sat on the passenger seat like a snake I didn't want to touch. I hadn't signed it, but I hadn't said no either. Instead, I reached for the glove box, pulled out an old Sears shoebox, edges scuffed from years sliding under seats. Inside, 15 years of bank receipts, a notarized letter from when I added Ryan to my life insurance, copies of every single gift check I'd written him since he turned 18. I flipped through them. $250 for community college books, $200 when his car got towed, $3,800 for moving expenses that turned into a Vegas trip, and more. Line after line, year after year, a total of $46,900 over 12 years. I kept every stub, not because I didn't trust him, because I wanted to remind myself it was worth it. That night, parked near Edgewater Beach, watching the lights ripple on the lake, I finally admitted it hadn't been. The next morning, I visited my credit union. The lobby smelled of paper and printer ink, old carpet under my boots. A young teller with glossy nails smiled too brightly. I told them to flag my name for suspicious activity. Then I drove to the county clerk's office on Lakeside Avenue. Cold marble floors, echo of footsteps, asked for the public access terminal. Within 5 minutes, I found what I feared. 2 weeks prior, a preliminary ownership affidavit had been filed by Ryan. He'd used my old address, one I'd lived at back in 2003. The affidavit claimed I was transferring deed authority for my rental unit on West 52nd. No signature, no witness, no certified mail. Just a forged document, tucked into a stack of filings nobody questioned. He thought I wouldn't notice. He didn't count on the fact that I always checked. Quietly, silently, thoroughly. The betrayal wasn't sudden. It was slow, like water damage behind drywall. Ryan wasn't always like this. I used to carry him on my shoulders through the West Side Market. He'd beg for peanuts and smile like he owned the city. His tiny hands sticky from roasted almonds, his laugh echoing under the market's iron arches. When his parents were fighting, I was the one who picked him up from school. I packed his lunch for 3 months straight. During that mess in '05, turkey sandwiches, apple slices, little notes that said, "Proud of you." When he dropped out of college, I didn't yell. I said, "Find something you love, then work harder than anyone else at it." He said he'd start his own business. I didn't laugh. I helped. Loaned him $10,000 for gym equipment. He called it Iron Den. Showed me the logo on a flash drive like it was gold. For a while, it looked real. He even had a website. But the signs came fast after that. One Sunday, I showed up unannounced to drop off a space heater at the rental unit. Ryan answered the door, shirtless, beer in hand. His business partner was asleep on the couch. Empty boxes everywhere. "Just setting up," he said, blocking the doorway. There was no gym, only excuses, and silence every time I asked for updates. Still, I didn't press. Didn't want to shame him. Didn't want to lose him. But every quiet moment I gave him, he filled with boldness, with assumption, with entitlement. Until now. 2 days after the retirement dinner, Ryan texted, "You gonna sign or not? You're retired. You've got nothing else to do." That was the moment something snapped clean. He didn't just think I was old. He thought I was done. I drove to my lawyer's office in Lakewood that afternoon. Gray skies over the lake, gulls circling slow. The office smelled like old books and fresh coffee. Told him everything, showed him the shoebox. He raised an eyebrow when he saw the total. "Charles," he said, tapping the receipts, "you have enough here to press fraud charges if he files anything further." I nodded. "But I don't want jail," I said. "I want truth." He leaned back, hands folded, eyes sharp behind rimless glasses. "Then we'll need proof. Real proof." I spent the next week preparing. Days blurred into paperwork and quiet anger. I pulled property tax statements, utility bills in my name, old lease agreements from the rental. Everything Ryan never touched, never paid for, never earned. I printed copies, signed affidavits, sent them via USPS certified mail to the county recorder's office, Ryan's listed business address, the bank that handled the loan he was trying to co-sign. Each envelope included a notarized declaration that no property transfer had ever been authorized. I copied the lawyer on all communications, and then I waited. The house was silent, except for the ticking of the wall clock. I drank coffee gone cold, stared at the rain crawling down the kitchen window. By the following Friday, the calls began. The bank called Ryan, told him his application was frozen due to irregularities. The county clerk's office flagged the affidavit as fraudulent, and Ryan, he showed up at my door. This time, no swagger, just rage. "You went behind my back?" he spat, breath ragged, cheeks flushed. I looked him in the eye. "You forged my name," I said. "That's a felony." He laughed bitterly, but it cracked halfway through. "What are you going to do, huh? Take me to court? I'm family." I didn't flinch. "No, Ryan, you were." Then I handed him one final envelope. Not legal, just a printed list. Every dollar I'd ever given him, with receipts dates, memos. At the bottom it read, total, 46,900, all gifts, no repayment expected, but trust is priceless. He crumpled it and stormed off, door slamming so hard the windows rattled. But I didn't need him to read it. I needed him to know I kept track, that I always had. The day after Ryan stormed off, I sat at my kitchen table with a mug of black coffee and a stack of paper in front of me. The house was silent, but for the hum of the refrigerator and the slow tick of the wall clock. Sunlight came through the blinds in thin, uneven stripes, cutting across the table where the papers lay fanned out. I stared at the numbers I'd typed out from every check I'd written him over the years. I didn't need a calculator. I knew the total by heart. 46 out of 900. That's not a fortune to some. But to me, it was everything I'd saved by skipping dinners out, canceling vacations I'd promised my late wife, working overtime shifts on arthritic knees while younger men called in sick. It was what I'd scraped from thin paychecks, while watching men half my age fold under the pressure and quit. Every cent came from sacrifice, not surplus. And the real burn? That money wasn't stolen all at once. It was taken slowly, under the warm disguise of love. First came the short-term emergency, then the bridge loan until next month, then silence until the next ask. And every time I asked, what happened to the last one, he'd just say, things didn't pan out. The vendor ghosted me. The economy, Grandpa, you know how it is. And like a fool, I nodded, because I did know how it was. I knew how hard it was to make it in this country. I'd walked into job interviews with holes in my shoes. I'd had weeks where ramen was dinner and breakfast. I thought I was helping him survive. I didn't see I was funding a fantasy. The second time I knew something was wrong was 3 years ago, at Thanksgiving. Cold wind outside, warm oven heat inside. My daughter's dining room smelled like sage and butter. Football played softly on the TV in the other room. Ryan showed up late, driving a black BMW 3 Series, not a rental. Brand new, he parked it right in front of the house like a trophy, headlights lingering before shutting off. When he walked in, everyone turned to look. His coat was sleek, his cologne sharp enough to smell from the kitchen. Said it was a lease for business optics. Said it was a networking thing. I looked him in the eye and said quietly, "Did you pay the back rent on your apartment?" He waved me off, grabbing a beer from the fridge. "Don't worry, it's handled." 2 weeks later, I got a call from his old landlord. Ryan had used me as a reference, without asking. Told them I was a co-signer. When I asked him about it, he shrugged. "You always say you got my back." That phrase haunted me for months. He started speaking for me before I even spoke, claiming my resources like they were owed, not earned. And when I questioned him, I became the villain. "You don't believe in me? You never supported my dream. You'd rather give to strangers than your own flesh and blood?" I gave in too many times. I didn't want to push him away. But the more I said yes, the smaller I felt in my own life. I remember a moment, crystal clear, middle of July, Cleveland heat, heavy as a blanket. I was replacing drywall at the rental unit on West 52nd, sweat soaking through my flannel, every hammer swing sending pain up my shoulders. Ryan pulled up in that same BMW, music low, sunglasses on, talking on Bluetooth like a man closing deals. He stepped out, didn't even offer to help. "Tenants still trashing the place?" he asked casually. I nodded, wiping sweat from my brow. "Why don't you just let it go?" he said, leaning against the car. "I mean, you're not getting younger. Just sell it to me. I'll manage it." There it was. The first pitch. I didn't respond. He left in 15 minutes, but I never forgot the look in his eyes, like he was already picturing his name on the deed. That night, back home, I pulled out the manila envelope where I kept the property papers. I flipped through. Title transfer from 1992. Renovation permits from 2008. Tax statements, all under my name. And then a letter I'd forgotten about, from 2011, a time when Ryan was in college, struggling. It was a handwritten note from him. "Thank you for believing in me, Grandpa. I'll make you proud. You'll never regret it. I kept that letter in a frame once. By the time I finished reading it again, my hands were trembling. But not from emotion, from realization. He had changed, or maybe I'd never seen him clearly at all. The pressure didn't stop. In the weeks after I refused the loan, Ryan's messages came fast. You know, this was my one shot. I'm telling Mom you're sabotaging me. You'll regret this, I swear. When guilt didn't work, he pivoted. You've got that Ford pension, don't you? You literally have nothing to spend it on. You're just letting it rot in the bank. He made my savings sound like trash, like dead weight, like I was selfish for not donating my life's work to his broken ladder. But what really stung was how easy the switch was. One week, I was his rock. The next, I was a bitter old man. And then came the BBQ, my daughter's birthday in late August. The backyard smelled of charcoal and cut grass. Kids ran around with sparklers, even though it was daylight. Ryan showed up with his friends, loud laughing, beer cans in hand. I stayed near the grill, flipping burgers in silence, the heat of the coals burning my forearms. One of his buddies, slick hair, fake gold watch, joked, "So this the guy bankrolling Iron Den?" Ryan grinned, leaning back like a king. He was, till he decided to die broke. The laugh was cruel. It rolled across the yard like slow thunder. No one said anything, not even my daughter. I turned the burgers slowly, jaw tight, swallowing words I'd regret. That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat by the window, watching headlights slice the dark street. That's when I realized he thought I was powerless, because I never raised my voice, because I never fought back. But silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. I started digging, pulled every text, email, and voicemail from him, created a timeline, every ask, every dollar, every manipulation. I wasn't doing it for revenge, not yet. I was doing it because I needed to see it, see the pattern, the design, the layers of how he twisted everything I gave him into a lever against me. Then came the real discovery. While checking the online portal for the county auditor, I found a second document, filed 6 months prior. A power of attorney document, unsigned, unverified, but submitted by Ryan's LLC. It listed me as granting him limited financial control. It was fake, but it was strategic. He was building a paper trail, trying to create the illusion that I was handing over my assets willingly. If I hadn't caught it in time, if I had passed away quietly, he would have owned everything. That broke something inside me. Not just sadness, shame. Because deep down, I'd seen the signs for years. But I told myself he was still just a kid. I excused his ego, his laziness, his arrogance, because I loved him. But love without boundaries, that's not love. That's enabling. The final straw came from the bank. I walked into the local branch on Lorraine Avenue just to check on my credit. The teller, young, nervous, looked confused as she typed my name. "There's a pending inquiry for a business loan application," she said slowly. "It lists you as a guarantor." The name matched. The address didn't. Ryan had listed my rental unit as his primary residence. And me? As a former co-owner turned investor. He was rewriting reality, and the banks were almost ready to believe him. I felt something cold slide into place in my chest. I called my lawyer again. This time there was no hesitation in my voice. "Build the file," I said. "Every document, every violation, every potential fraud." He didn't ask questions. He just got to work. And I started planning. But not the kind of plan Ryan would expect. Not yelling, not screaming. Something quieter, colder, sharper. The humiliation didn't end with the forged loan papers. It just evolved. The week after I shut the loan down, Ryan posted a story on his Instagram, a picture of me from the retirement dinner, slouched in my chair, caught mid-bite, the kind of photo you'd delete if you saw it in your own gallery, my jaw half open, my hands lined like old rope, a lifetime of work compressed into one unflattering angle. captioned, "Old money but no vision. Don't worry, I'll build it without you." 15 comments, laughing emojis, fire emojis, his friends cheering him on like he was an underdog hero. I wasn't tagged, but he wanted me to see it, and I did. That night, I sat alone on my back porch, the Cleveland wind biting through my sleeves, sharp enough to sting my skin. The porch boards creaked under my boots. My coffee had gone cold, but I still held it, fingers wrapped around the chipped mug. There's a moment in every man's life when the past feels heavier than the future. This was mine. 42 years of 5 a.m. alarms, calloused hands, bad knees, missed birthdays. Every sacrifice I'd made to keep the family together suddenly looked optional, like maybe I'd wasted it on people who never valued the cost. I watched the neighborhood settle into night. The street lamp flickered at the corner. A dog barked once and went silent. The city felt like it was holding its breath, but self-pity never helped anyone. So I went inside, the screen door groaning, and opened a fresh manila folder on the kitchen table. The clock ticked steady over my shoulder. I wrote 2 words at the top in thick black ink. Final move. I wasn't the angry type, never was, but something had shifted. Not just in me, in how I saw him. Ryan wasn't just ungrateful, he was strategic. He wasn't flailing, he was scheming. And I'd finally seen the blueprint. Flashback. 10 years ago, he asked if he could help me manage my rental unit. Said he'd collect rent, handle maintenance. He said, "You don't need the headache. Let me earn my keep." I was recovering from back surgery then, could barely walk without a cane. The scar along my spine itched under my shirt. So I agreed, gave him keys, introduced him to the tenants, trusted him. That trust lasted exactly 3 months. Tenants stopped paying on time. Ryan blamed plumbing issues, said he needed $2,000 for emergency work. I wired it without thinking. 3 weeks later, the tenants moved out, no notice. Left a note scrawled in blue ink on a torn envelope. "Can't deal with your grandson. He threatened to evict us unless we paid in cash." I confronted Ryan in the driveway. My back brace creaked as I walked. He smirked and said, "They were dead weight anyway. You'll get better renters." I should have cut him off right there. But I didn't. I took the loss. Cleaned the unit myself. Painted the walls with aching arms that throbbed at night. Hired a real management company. And Ryan, he vanished until the next ask. That memory hit me hard the night I found the second forged document, the fake power of attorney. He hadn't changed. He'd refined. The lies got slicker, the manipulation more surgical. And I realized something. He was betting on my silence. He counted on me never fighting back, because for years I didn't. But now I was assembling the very thing he feared. Paperwork. Paper doesn't lie. It doesn't yell. It doesn't punch. But it crushes in court, and I had enough to flatten him. I called my lawyer and told him to start drafting the response package. The phone felt heavy in my hand. Affidavit of non-consent. Challenge of property, affidavit. Formal dispute of power of attorney filing. Everything notarized, backed with receipts, timelines, and bank records. We weren't going to court yet. No. First, I wanted to watch his mask fall. The opportunity came faster than expected. 2 weeks later, my daughter invited me to a small family gathering. Labor Day weekend. Said it was casual. Just burgers and corn on the cob. I asked who'd be there. "Just us," she said. That us included Ryan. I showed up exactly on time. Same flannel. Same truck. The sky a hazy blue, the kind Cleveland gets before the leaves start to turn. Ryan was already on the back deck, laughing with friends, red Solo cup in hand, music low, some summer playlist. He saw me and gave the same fake hug he used to give his gym clients. "Glad you made it," he said like nothing had happened. I just nodded, kept quiet, waited. The sun dipped behind the trees. Mosquitoes came out, whining near my ears. I smelled the grill smoke mixing with citronella candles. Then, like clockwork, he started again. He waited until everyone had food, then stood up to make an announcement, said he was opening a second gym location, said he'd found a silent partner, me. Everyone clapped. I didn't. He turned to me, eyes gleaming. Right, Grandpa? Tell them. All eyes turned. I looked him dead in the face and said, steady as stone, you forged a document to steal my property. You're not just a liar, you're a criminal. Silence. Complete. Utter silence. He blinked, laughed nervously. Come on, man, don't do this in front of everyone. I pulled the envelope from my jacket. The paper warmed from my body heat. Dropped it on the table with a soft thud. Inside, copies of both forged documents, certified mail receipts showing I'd already filed disputes, a notarized list of every financial transaction we'd ever had, and taped to the front. You are not authorized to act on my behalf, ever. His face drained. Red turned pale. His girlfriend stood up and quietly walked to the fence, staring at her phone but not scrolling. My daughter asked, voice trembling, "What's going on?" I looked at her, calm, controlled. Your son tried to steal my house. He filed a fake power of attorney and submitted a fraudulent deed transfer. He lied to a bank. He lied to you, and he lied to me. Ryan finally snapped, his voice cracking like glass. You're exaggerating. It was just a form, a test run. No one even approved it. I said nothing, just stared. That silence. It broke him more than yelling ever could. He grabbed the envelope, opened it, saw the certified responses from the county clerk. He muttered, You set me up. I smiled. Slow, almost sad. No, Ryan, you set yourself up. I just kept the receipts. He tried to storm out, but there was nowhere to go. Not with 10 family members staring at him like they'd never met him before. After he left, my daughter sat beside me. I didn't know, she whispered. I know, I said. And I did. Because sometimes people don't want to see the truth until it's printed, stamped, and handed to them. The first night on the road, I pulled into a quiet rest stop outside Springfield, Missouri. The highway behind me was a ribbon of fading red taillights, swallowed by the dark. Out here, though, nothing. No rush, no noise, just the soft hum of crickets hidden in tall grass, and the creak of old pine trees bending with the wind. I cut the engine. The sudden silence felt almost heavy. I sat behind the wheel for a while, headlights off, the dashboard glowing faint orange, reflecting across my lined hands. The engine ticked as it cooled. My breath fogged faintly on the glass. And for the first time in a long time, there was nothing chasing me, no calls to return, no deals to dodge, no one asking for just a little more, just silence and peace. I leaned back, let the seat creak beneath me. I could hear my pulse in my ears, slow, steady, no longer racing. Then I reached into the glove box, pulled out the letter Ryan had written, the one I swore I wouldn't read again. The paper was soft from being folded too many times, creased at the edges, corners bent like old bookmarks. I sat under the dome light of my RV, that harsh white glow buzzing overhead, and I unfolded it slowly. One sentence stuck out, just one. I thought you'd always bail me out. I thought that's what love was. That was the tragedy of it all. He wasn't lying. He really thought love meant taking over and over without ever giving back, and I had let him think that for too long. I sat there until the dome light timed out and the letter fell into shadow. My hands rested on the steering wheel. My throat ached, but no words came out. In the morning, I brewed a black cup of gas station coffee in a styrofoam cup, bitter as burnt wood, the kind that makes your teeth feel coated after one sip. And then I drove, through the Ozarks. Sunlight poured through the trees, gold bleeding over green hills. Mist clung low in the valleys like ghost smoke. The radio crackled until I found an oldies station. Roy Orbison sang about loneliness through static. And I remembered something, how Ryan used to sit in the back seat when he was 7. How he'd hum along to those oldies, tapping the window with his tiny fingers, off-beat, off-key, but happy. how I thought those drives would last forever, but they don't. Nothing does. I stopped in Kansas for a while. Flatland, dusty diners with neon signs that flickered but never went dark. Small towns where strangers still waved from porches. I rented a little monthly spot outside a bait shop. The lot was gravel, uneven. The air smelled like gasoline and catfish. The owner, Bill, was a veteran. Rough around the edges, hair cut short, voice gravel deep. But his handshake was steady. He asked what brought me out this way. I just said, "Needed the road to get small again." He nodded once. No more questions. Like he understood more than I'd said. And I think he did. Back home, I knew the gossip was still spinning. Family lines redrawn, people choosing sides in whispers, kitchen tables holding conversations that would never reach my ears. But the truth? I didn't care, because I had already chosen mine. I wasn't the fool anymore. Wasn't the wallet. Wasn't the old man to be guilted, swindled, discarded. I was just Charles again, a man with a name, and peace he had earned the hard way. I got a postcard in late October, from Ryan. No return address, just a picture of a desert highway, straight and endless, disappearing into the horizon. 5 words scrawled on the back. Hope you find what's next. No apology, no plea, just distance, and I was okay with that. For the first time in years, I felt no urge to reply. By November, I'd made it to New Mexico. The sky there is bigger somehow, bluer, the air thinner, sharp in the lungs. I bought a pair of second-hand cowboy boots from a thrift store, scuffed but sturdy. Got coffee from a trailer that played Johnny Cash through a busted speaker, the voice distorted but still strong. I stood on the edge of a canyon one evening and watched the sunset burn the sky red, then violet, then black. The silence out there is alive. It presses on you until you realize it's not silence at all. It's the sound of everything finally leaving you alone. There's a stillness out there that can't be faked, a kind of silence that heals you, 1 mile at a time. And you know what? I didn't miss the old life. I missed what it should have been. The retirement party that should have been about love, not leverage. The family that should have stood beside me, not waited with open palms. The grandson that should have carried my name with pride, not paperwork. But regret is like rain on the windshield. It only blinds you if you stare at it too long. So I wiped it clean, and kept driving. I never meant to become a symbol, but when I shared my story with a few guys at the RV park, men like me, grayed by time, tired from sacrifice, they listened in silence. One of them, Dave, said, "You didn't just retire, you reclaimed your name?" He was right. Retirement isn't just walking away from work. Sometimes it's walking away from the people who mistook your kindness for currency. One night, deep in Arizona, I found a stretch of road that ran flat and empty for miles. No streetlights, no signs, just stars. I pulled over, stepped out into the dark, boots crunching gravel, looked up. The sky felt honest again, like it used to when I was young and still believed people kept their word. I stood there a while, hands in my jacket pockets, the wind pushing through me like a second skin. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was carrying the weight of what I'd lost. I felt lighter, like maybe the road ahead wasn't empty after all. I got back in the RV, turned the key. The engine rumbled awake, and I drove, not toward anyone, not away from anything, just forward, always forward. If this story struck a chord, hit like, subscribe, and tell me what you think in the comments.